get people to take it more seriously, understand the power of it. And yes, like you said at, the Advertising Week event, to elevate it because it's not an add-on. It is the most powerful tactic we have. And at this incredibly challenging moment of AI slop everywhere, we are the only source of truth.
Great experiences don't happen by accident. They're built by people who understand how stories, culture, and community come together in a room. Today's guest started her career as a journalist before moving into brand strategy roles at Condé Nast and Fast Company. There she found her true medium, experiences, where she helped launch and build gatherings like the Fast Company Innovation Festival, the Wired Store, the Teen Vogue Summit. Today, she continues that work through XP Land, a platform dedicated to defining and elevating experiential industry. Welcome, Erica Boeke, founder of Liberty & Co. and creator of XP Land.
Thank you, Mark. And I want to give you a big hug because we are both Condé Nast alums. And I think there's a new movie coming out, a documentary about our lives called Devil Wears Prada 2. Yes. And we kind of grew up there. And I think, it really kind of probably gave both of us all these amazing tools to create amazing experiences for our clients and partners. And so it's great to connect with you again.
Absolutely. So knowing that, let's talk a little bit about your background. We've spoken before. I, generally know we were at Condé Nast. We crisscrossed a little bit towards the end.
Yeah.
But you had a whole life before. So what got you from that point? Well, your career start to where you are.
Well, I like to ask, especially people in our space, like, what was your experiential awakening, right? What was that moment that you realized you were a gatherer? And I realize I'm wearing a gatherer hat because my hair looks bad. But anyway, I realized I was a gatherer at, my sister's 8th birthday party when I was just like the ringleader of everything. And I was really thoughtful about how people were going to feel and what the experience was going to be. So I discovered it really young. And then I'm lucky enough to have made a career out of it. You should see my family's Thanksgivings. Like, we have a logo, we have swag, we have
Because of you?
yes, we have a full weekend. Like, it's not just Thursday. It is like an extravaganza. So, I can't stop, won't stop gathering people. But then, it was really cool to go to Condé Nast. We were working on the brand side of things, and I wasn't necessarily hired to do events. It's just we did them really well there. Like, we had an editorial lens and we had a relationship with our audience. And doing live experiences was just a natural extension of the magazine, the digital, the social. And I think it was there that I really felt that magic between your super fans. We had these people who loved these brands and couldn't wait to not only see what we were going to put on stage or in store or whatever the activation was, but to be with each other, right? Because they had that shared community. So to me, I think, building these gatherings and feeling those goosebumps and seeing people's connections was just, I think, what solidified my direction into creating experiences. And Mark, when we were doing what we were doing back at Condé, like, look how far we've come, right? Like, I think, clients used to come to us at Condé because they didn't necessarily know how to do it themselves, right?
And absolutely. And I think too, and because I think we were there slightly at different times. I was there earlier. It wasn't considered the moneymaker. It was just for us, it was an added value for advertising.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's how long that stayed and if even into your moment there, but towards the end for you, it became a revenue driver, wasn't it?
Definitely. When I first started there, I'd been at GQ, Wired, Arc Digest, and, we had done the Oscar Green Room for Arc Digest and GQ Lounge, and those were all kind of in the service of media, right? And as you said, they were add-ons. But my last chapter at Condé, which was a great one, was running Experiential for the whole company. And Bob Sauerberg, president at the time, said, hey, why don't you go shopping for event companies? Well, first of all, he said, what do we do internally and what do we bring in resources for? I said, we're kind of the strategy and the creative. We come up with the why, the who should be on stage, should there even be a stage, and getting the right people there and marketing it right. And then I said, we usually bring in the folks who can build the stage and he said, okay, well, go buy the people who can build the stage. So that was a fun endeavor for me. I met all of these agencies. I saw all of their business, kind of models. And I did learn a lot about, I think not only having the client revenue stream, but also kind of developing your own IP and developing your own proprietary, I think, revenue line, because doing events is a tough business. It's a low margin. It's very bumpy, meaning very project oriented, as you know.
About it. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a cool moment where I was like, okay, I get to go shopping for a company. I get to go we ended up acquiring a company called Pop to Life. And look, everyone's like, why did you choose Pop to Life? They'd never done a Condé Nast event ever. And I said, that's why. We wanted to buy someone who had a different book of business. And they had a side product that was called Concierge. And it was a ticket buying kind of company. So they had another revenue stream. And at the time, Mark, Condé, if you were Condé Nast Traveler and you had a bunch of people coming to your event, we weren't marketing to those people for Vanity Fair. There was no CRM. There was no, So my vision when I acquired that company was like, okay, you are filling a gap. You can build the stages. And you also have this platform that can kind of bring our ticket buyers together. So that was the decision there. But then, selfishly, I was like, this was really fun. I consider that my MBA chapter. But I was like, I want to be on the other side. I want to be maybe the one being acquired. So, so that was kind of what sparked that. I think another interesting spark for me was the last event I did at Condé Nast was the experiential upfronts at Condé Nast.
Right.
And I got all of the editors, the New Yorker editors, I got Glamour, I got Teen Vogue, all of them to come and present what their experiential lineup was for the year. And we had brands in the room. We had PR people in the room who were looking to place their clients on stages. So it was really this magical moment. And I remember at the end being like, I think our whole industry needs this. We need the experiential upfronts. Yeah, for sure. So it was like 2018 and I jumped out and said, I'm going to start my own consultancy. I want to help brands, find their editorial voice and determine how to create experiences with that editorial lens. And then I'm also going to eventually create my own IP. And that ended up being XP Land, which, is this community content and gatherings for our industry. And I think we're a little bit different from, BizBash and Event Marketer. We look at the experiential industry a lot more broadly. And I also think we're talking to those strategists and the creatives.
Yeah, I think it's just, I experience all of them. So I think what I've seen in XP Land is this ability. You bring a different level into the room that I haven't seen in a lot of these other places.
I love it.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Because it's, brands are obviously really important. Super cool agencies doing incredible work are really important. Guess who else is important? Artists, experiential creators, meaning the people behind Essence Festival, and you saw at the event we did these kind of new indie upstarts, and even really cool venues like a Rock Center, like a Cosm, like an Area 15. So, and that's what I love about the moment where we are in experiential. There are a bunch of really talented, incredible people that are pushing this industry forward. It is our moment right now.
It is. That's what I hear.
It is. And it's not just me. It is Mark Cuban. It is Sam Altman. It is Gary Vee. But the moment is we all are doing really incredible work and we all need each other.
Yeah,
Different
we do. And We're actually, it's interesting because we crisscross against each other, and sometimes we don't even know. So we're all different artists doing different things, and we're used to doing the events, the production and the design. And then somebody came to us to do fulfillment for a mailer for an influencer. I'm like, well, how does that fit? It's
Right.
like it's kind of we're all interrelated. And then come to find out, like you say, it was to an agency. So when you
Right.
it's all connected if we know it or not. But it was interesting but they don't even internally, and I'll probably get flack for this, but even internally, they're different people are talking about different languages,
Yes.
and they don't have the experience to produce at the level they should be. So we're kind
Totally.
of helping with that, even though they're saying they are. A lot of smoke and mirrors, I think, even in experiential, a lot of people are saying they're doing everything.
Yeah.
But I would always be careful of anybody who says they do everything.
Agreed. And look, I think this is a double-edged sword. As experiential people, like we are thrown every curveball known to man at any moment of the entire process,
Yep.
right? Like our team once built like a huge $1 million stage on a pool in Vegas.
Mhm.
And then the workers in Vegas decided it was like there was a little wind in the air and they were like, nope, we're not doing it. So we ended up having to move indoors. Anyway, and we had a plan B, but suddenly no one was offering that. So we had to go to plan C. Like the kind of, so that's great because we are solutions oriented people. However, when a client says, can you do a direct mail for me? Like, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, we can build you a website. Yes, we can
Right.
build you an app. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
all connected. It's the same mindset in many ways. You're looking at timeframes and budgets and coordinating different people and different resources together to get to that end result.
right. And I think we're such a scrappy kind of, I think, evolving industry that we always feel like we have to say yes to that client because we're going to lose the client. And look, it's such an interesting time for this because look, the other thing you're seeing is the huge conglomerate agencies are so big and so hard to move that they like to work with. Can we just work with people that we trust and that we know are going to deliver? And look, there's no better agency than an experiential agency to be in the trenches with you to prove that they can do anything. But where that gets us in trouble is sometimes we say yes to things that are not in our wheelhouse, and then that puts that core business in jeopardy. And that's, it's interesting at XP Land, where I'll give you a little sneak preview. In Cannes, we're launching this new product. So right now we have, the content, we have the council, which is senior level folks, which you should be a part of the council, Mark Testa. And then we have these gatherings, which, are, at Advertising Week at Cannes Lion. But we're starting to roll out this new product called XP Match. And it's starting to get into the facing the harsh truth that a lot of us have different expertise than others. Right. Our agency is really great at conferences, at summits, at programming. But if you ask me to do a mobile food truck activation in Singapore, no, I'm probably not your best choice. But if a client asked me to do that, I'd be like, sure. And then I go, let's get honest. And look, you still might white label someone, but let's make it easier to find each other. I think one of the main issues I've identified 3 main issues in our industry. Number 1, we are not connected. We don't all know each other. There's not an easy way to know each other. We're all relying on our Rolodex.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to do is and Mark, I've known you for 1,000 years. If you trust somebody, that means I trust that person.
Right. That's how it's going to work. Yeah.
That's how
I would only, somebody can, a lot of people reach out to us. If I'm not referred by somebody that I've known who's worked with you, it's a challenge.
Yeah. Because how many jump balls and how many, I think, there's so many issues in dropping everything and doing a pitch. And so many people expect those creative ideas from the pitch. So unless it's a warm intro that I think I'm, really going to be, I think close to getting that business, it's really hard to just do jump balls all day, right?
You can't waste your time. I mean, the amount of energy that be wasted would be incredible. In addition to that, we have to still do our regular work.
Yes, exactly, of making miracles on a daily basis.
Right.
So I think connecting us, and not just like for the work and the lead gen, but connecting people like, I always use this example, like Jimmy Knowles from Canva is a great friend of XP Land. And he's always like, I'm like, what is your dream? He's like, I want to do a Canva musical. And I'm like, okay, you need to meet Randy Weiner, who's on the X list, who brought Sleep No More to New York and is working on Masquerade with Andrew Lloyd Webber. You two need to meet. Then he's like, I want to do a Canva roller coaster. I'm like, okay, you need to meet Matthew Cross.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Okay. But like
If you have making that connection, that's pretty huge.
well, and that's kind of where, and listen, you and I both sat in that seat at Condé where we not only produced miracles on a daily basis, but I built the outdoor sky deck at JFK. So I know the TSA and the FAA.
Right.
I sponsored Coachella on behalf of a brand. So I've bought sponsorships.
Right.
I've worked with artists. That's the gift of Condé, being able to work with an artist for an Art Basel build, So I do think that background, and it's not just me. XP Land is, a lot of us came from media. I've got an amazing member of our council, Louisa St. Pierre. She comes from the art world. She's an incredible connector. I think we have a core of connectors at the heart of XP Land. And what I love is just when I hear people's hopes and dreams, whether they're on the brand side or whether they're a super cool agency that is looking to do something amazing in augmented reality. I just love connecting people. So that is the first problem we're solving, which is let's connect all kinds of people and help them collaborate and commercialize, because I think we all need to figure out how to make this industry, grow together. So connecting people, I think the other issue that we really face is the measurability. I think it's, we are dealing with jazz hands and tap dancing and selling the story and, the dream. And that doesn't always translate to the CFO spreadsheet or the investor spreadsheet, right? I think that's like helping our experiential brethren and sisterin get to the yes with whoever is that budget holder with you. So that's another area that we would love to help solve. And I think right now there's no easy answer because, and that leads me to the third issue, which there isn't really a simple supply chain or framework for our industry. If you're doing a summit or a conference, that's one kind of framework or workflow. If you're doing a, spectacle like the Super Bowl halftime show or the Olympic show, that's another one. If you're doing an influencer gathering, a super high touch, that's another framework. So I think, even a shared language, a shared vernacular, and a shared understanding of what experiential means is something that we're trying to do at XP Land to just get people to take it more seriously, understand the power of it. And yes, like you said at the Advertising Week event, to elevate it, because it's not an add-on. It is the most powerful tactic we have. And at this incredibly challenging moment of AI slop everywhere, we are the only source of truth.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is true.
And for our brand partners who are out there trying to get people to think differently about their brand, having people experience things for themselves, fall in love with your brand, become a part of your fandom and your community, and then become an ambassador by sharing stuff on social. That's the dream. So I think we have a lot that we can offer that brand community and that IP holder community. Like, there's a reason Netflix is doing Stranger Things and Netflix House.
Right.
You have the core IP, and then it can live in perpetuity through these experiences. You don't even need to create more of the original IP.
Right. And then people would keep amplifying that with social. So interesting that you say all this. And I think it's amazing what you're trying to put together. And I think you're probably the best person for it, because going back to your Condé days, the fact that you were able to put all the magazines together in a room and have them play nicely, because if anybody who knows, they didn't like to play nicely. I mean, look, they had to play. I shouldn't say that. They didn't like to play together. They
Yeah.
all had were competitive,
Yeah.
and that was the culture. You had to be competitive. GQ was competitive. I don't know. At the time was Details.
Details. Yeah.
You Glamour is competitive with Vogue, so they didn't want to share things.
Yeah.
Because that's when I was there. It was this, don't tell them that. I got in trouble once because, and this was, I went to another company. I was a traveler and I called Travel and Leisure because I knew somebody over there.
Yeah.
Because we were both doing an event in the same city for the same conference. So we literally called each other because we were friends.
Yeah.
And said, I need to talk to you because I want to make sure we don't overlap.
Yeah.
And I told the publisher, we're horrified.
Well,
I was like, do you understand? I'm doing this for us.
yes.
They're gonna do their event. We're gonna do our event. There are boundaries, but it works to both of our advantage that we have this discussion. I'm still friends with this person now
Yes.
because that person's gonna leave and go to another company and such. So you have to keep the relationships. But also now looking to what you're trying to do, you also have, although we collaborate, we do compete. So there's only so many. I think a lot has to do with the fact that there's only so many companies currently that see the full potential of experiential.
Yeah. You mean brands? You mean
Brands,
clients?
brands,
Yeah.
brands.
Yeah.
And they literally pit us against each other sometimes.
Yeah.
In this RFP process. I'm like, you have to kind of weigh it out, and that's challenging. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I was on the phone with somebody the other day saying I was on a call with 30 people for an RFP. I was like, well, that's a little much. This was a city thing. I was like, I'm gonna step out of that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they do pit us against each other, and so we want to share, but at the same time, if we're going after the same business, we have to be, there's going to be some reluctancy. Have you thought about it? How you
Yeah.
going to manage that?
Well, look, what I want to encourage the agency ecosystem is to, and you don't have to do this in an overt way, but I want us to start to get real about what our specialties are. When you look at like digital, okay, there are some people who are really great at websites. There's some people that are really great at apps. And you don't have to say this to the public, but we want to be the ones who and I think having our editorial team get to know agencies really well. And look, there's some really cool ones like Something Special and Done and Dusted who did Bad Bunny and, and Moment Factory who does Olympic spectacles. We want to get to know all of the agencies and studios, because I think there are, and we want to start putting them on kind of a spectrum. Are you more of a strategy or creative? Are you more of a fabrication? Are you more of a, when you're handling conferences, are you that high touch kind of concept? I want us to start mapping that out. And I want I want you all, I do feel like I'm trusted in the industry. I feel like
you are, yes.
Because and again, this feels like it should be a puff piece for Condé, but that church and state, I take very seriously. And when I tell people that things are off the record and we have journalists, we have editorial minded people that are learning everything we can about agencies. And then on the other side, I know all the brands. And they tell me what they're looking to do. And I was chatting with Jess Stacy over at Sephora, and she's like, we're just announcing our Formula One partnership in addition to our WNBA. And so that's getting me to understand their brand ethos and helping me to understand who I should introduce them to,
right.
So I think knowing the brands really well and cultivating and just Jimmy being I want to do a musical, and Mark, this is what we used to do at Condé. Remember when we at brand would sit between the editors and the sales, And we would say to the editors, what are your hopes and dreams? And then let me go find a way to commercialize that and find a partner because that way everyone wins. And that is my secret. Where is 1 + 1 = 3? Like, how can this brand have a dream? And then how can I look at this really cool agency that I know this is their sweet spot, that when I bring those people together, it's going to be a huge success. And then everybody wins, right?
Right. I think there's definitely enough business. I think people have to understand that there is currently too. I think there's enough business around.
Yes.
And that's a tough one for people because I was just mentioning this idea that, we're all competing, but I think, we're competing for the big picture. And I think the secret that a lot of people don't know is these big agencies, because they kind of dominate in many ways, are really hiring a lot of us.
Yes.
Nobody knows this. Nobody knows this.
Well, and that's
or they might
too. Well, at first we started off, one of the theses we had was like, maybe we should become the IMDb Pro of Experiential and just have everyone listed, right? But then there were so many people, even for the X List nominations. X List is our kind of editorial gift to the world, the 100 we think coolest people in our space. So many people, were applying, but they're like, we can't share this because the client won't allow it. And it's like, we kind of want people to be able to talk about the work, but I think you do see that in other mediums, but I think that, the wonderful part about getting really honest about what our sweet spot is that the unique thing about Experiential, I don't think something like an agency of record in Experiential works.
I don't think so. I agree.
Because, take a brand like Sephora. They're doing these super high-touch influencer things. They are doing a big production like a Sephora, and then maybe they're doing a huge, something in Abu Dhabi, right? So you need a network of cool agencies that shouldn't feel like they're competing. Everyone's got their own ethos. Everyone's got something to bring to the party. And if that's what XPLAN can help do, is just say there's enough work for everyone, let's make it easier for both sides to find that work, then that, like, that's my legacy. That's what I would love to do in this industry.
No, I love it. I think, look, if we went back, 10 years maybe, what we call ourselves Experiential really didn't even exist, or at least the word didn't exist.
Yeah.
So, it's evolved just by itself to something that good and bad, good habits, bad habits, and we've kind of owned them. I hate the RFP process. I think it's just awful. And you have to decide what works for you. But, if I'm going to go up against or you're going to go up against a Jack Morton, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
And clients have to be educated too. Like I said, if Jack Morton could be hiring you or me and our company to do the job that they're saying they do all of it.
Totally. And then
it's happened.
And then that brand is paying double markup and, all of that. So I think, listen, they understand the trade-offs when you work with the behemoth, and they understand the trade-offs when you work with the small shop. There's one thing, I wanted to bring up, and it's funny. So this is my other hat. So, Liberty & Co. is our consultancy, and I think we're kind of unique in the space. And Mark, let me know if you agree. We have this project for the meatpacking district, and we talked about it. And this, again, is the Condé of it all. We were responsible for coming up with the concepts, the creative, the logos, the selling strategy. We're selling it to sponsors. We are doing the marketing. We are doing the programming. We are executing it. We're creating the content strategy. And then we are, executing it flawlessly, right? That is world building to me. But guess what? We will bring in fabrication partners. We will bring in a lot of partners to that. But that whole end to end, and look, that involves, we're building their website. I don't know that many folk. I don't even think a Jack Morton could do that, right? So that's where the boutiques come in, right? And we'll pull in, and that is where I think if you are an agency that has a strong strategic and creative part of your shop, that this is our moment. There are a lot of like the production and the fabricators, and like let's talk about you guys. Like, do you find that you get a lot of that creative and strategy work, or that's what wins the business?
It depends. We get a lot of creative and production. And
Yeah.
interesting, you mentioned the meat packing because that came across our desk as an
I
RFP. And we've talked about this. And I look, and somebody wanted to partner with me on it because I was like, well, I don't want to do. It's not really, like you said, not in my wheelhouse to do the strategy. I would. It would take a, and not that we can't. I shouldn't say that. We end up doing it anyway. Sometimes we give it away just because by default. But our sweet spot is design and production.
Yep.
So when I saw the RFP come through, and I think this is where you guys probably fit better. I said, this is too big a project, and I would only partner with somebody on it. But the other thing was like, how did it come in? And I know it was a city thing, and I was like, well, how many people are on it? I was like, look, our chance. And then I got nervous. I'm like, well, Jack Morton's going to go up against it. I can't compete with that.
Right.
I shouldn't limit ourselves, but at the same time, when they have thousands and thousands of dollars that they're going to spend towards, and I've spoken with somebody, 40,000, 100,000 for an RFP just to get the business. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the best use of my money and time to do that.
Yeah.
I'd rather just do the piece that we know really well, get a markup that's reasonable for us, and rather do 3 or 4 projects that are a little smaller and ultimately,
Totally. And that is definitely your sweet spot, which is like when we interview you for your XP match, like we are going to be like, okay, got it. But I know you, Mark, and I know your level of excellence and your taste is here. So I'm going to be able to plot you out for you are a perfect choice for X, right? Look, we don't take a lot of projects at the agency because definitely my energy is XP land, and I want that to be the legacy, like I said. But this project was our dream because
it's great. And as long as they give you the time and the budget to do it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we have we're in the thick of it now, but we started last summer, and so many brands don't do that.
No, I agreed. I remember the RP came in. It's almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Actually, last holiday season went, and I was like, well, I guess they didn't do it. And now when I spoke with you, you're like, well, they're doing it. So I can clearly see it was a 2-year window when they started the process.
And
so they give you the time.
But I love that mindset of what is the editorial brand. And when you think of the meatpacking district as a brand, and I tell people it's a movie set. It's a Hollywood movie set. And now we get to set the table, and we get to that was mixing metaphors, but okay, now we get to set the stage. But it's, to me, that's that. And to me, that's where brands need to go. And, I will talk about this a lot when we're in Cannes together. We should talk about Cannes, but brands need to start thinking of themselves as editorial brands with audiences and super fans and fandom. And those are the brands that really shine in experiential. Look at Canva. And you know what I love about Canva? Have you been to Canva Create?
I have not.
So Public School is a great agency that does that. They also work with Dun and Dusted. So that event feels like the Canva product that you use. Like, I don't know how to describe that. Sephoria, I'm going there next weekend. It feels like
that.
It's in LA. They're doing it at the Magic Box. Yeah.
Keep trying to keep an eye on that one.
Yes. All right. Keep an eye on it. It is just the, IRL kind of expansion of it's like their Coachella, right? And I think that's where, as people with this editorial mindset, and your agency, I'm sure is, I would, like you said, go to the bold people, go to the people that have the fans and the fandom. And if I was an agency right now, that's where I would be searching, because, we will always find these junior people at brands that are so excited and they want to boil the ocean and they want to do something different and they are so excited. And then we get them the proposal and then they bring it to the higher ups and they're like, let's do exactly what we did last year. Right. So the key is to find the senior leadership who is truly, And
we've been most successful is when you a direct line to a CMO.
Yes.
That is the key. And that once if you make them happy.
Yes. Yeah. And then
you can pitch your idea, explain your idea, defend your idea to the right person.
Yes.
Because if you're doing it to 1, 2, 3 layers down, it's very hard.
Yeah. And you know what's kind of fun about so the Meatpacking Project, we're bringing it to clients. And it's really fun to go to them and be like, not like, hey, you should hire us to do something. It's like, hey, here's an opportunity. Here's something super cool we're doing. And everyone has a holiday budget. So you should, and Mark, the sales part is also in our Condé DNA. And that part feels really fun because I think that's another thing we were really good at. Like, I hate, call me. I hate, logos on napkins and gobos instead. Like, come on, people are still doing that shit. Can we
banners?
Oh my God. Can we please just think about the attendee and what's going to light them? So let me go back to this. And sorry, this is going to be a 4-hour podcast. Everyone should pay. But you asked me, like, when we were at Condé, how it was to have them play nice together. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It didn't always happen. It didn't often happen. But I think helping the brands that had that cult following shape what they were doing was something I really enjoyed. But one project, I kind of did the opposite. And this is what I would encourage brands to do. I knew we had the portfolio of Condé events. All of them were quite mature. Mm-hmm. But then I said, let me reverse that. What does the world need? Where is the gap in experiences? What audience actually needs a cool experience? And what I came up with was there are no cool events for parents and kids to do together. You end up bringing your kids to a terrible bouncy house thing or whatever. And the parents not being enriched, the kids not being enriched. So we came up with this concept and it was called #FAM. And it was actually, Mark, taking audiences from across every Condé brand because every single one of them had families, but that wasn't sexy enough for any of the editors there, right? So
I could see Vogue be like, nah.
Right. So
we don't do family, we're fashion.
We ended up taking this brand, #FAM, pulling the audience from across, and we came up with this concept. It was going to be in LA. At this point, it was a few years ago, so it was like all of the celebrities and their kids, were kind of headlining it. But there were 2 tracks, or 3 tracks actually. One for parents only, one for kids only, and then one for the parent and me. And it was kind of inspired by Wired and Geek Dad, activities you could do with your kids. And it ended up actually being a part of the Wired 25 activation. But to me, that I always encourage brands and IP owners to think, instead of how can I tell everyone about my brand? It's like, what does the world need?
Right.
And how can you go solve a problem and then make people fall in love with your brand while they're there? So that's my that's always my lens. But I think that, listen, as we get more and more nuanced with who does what really well, I do think pulling out these strategy and creative agencies that can help these brands figure out the why, the who, and the what. I love using that example of first of all, every RFP should start with why are we doing this?
Oh, that'd be, yeah. And you have to extract that sometimes out of a lot of them.
Yeah.
Even what we try to do is what's the what does success look like to you? That you'd be shocked the stares we get. and this is from a brand. It was like, what are you looking for? What does it mean? Do you want lines around the block? Do you want social? Do you want what do you just want amazing? You want awareness? And they don't necessarily have an answer.
Yeah.
They just
Totally.
want what a lot of it is they want what somebody else already had. I see that, if it's from a decor point of view or production, or they'll pull up. I've seen people pull our projects and put them on their image board and say, we want this. I'm like, well, I did that, or I know who did that. It's always after the fact. It's like very few say, hey, I'm looking for this. I guess this is where you would come in more. It's like, or we all would come in and to help them, because it's a lot. I think it's a lot easier sell to the higher ups.
Yeah.
In many ways, I guess that's why it comes in. It's
Yeah.
like, well, this was successful. Or when you say Sephora, I want another Sephora. I was like, of course you do, because it's considered successful. You want to do your own version of it.
Yeah.
Or a beauty event. It's like, well, I can tell you that's, you don't want to, make anybody feel bad. I was like, well, I've seen that 10 times.
Yeah.
What can we do? Or I try to sneak it in sometime. Well, what about this? And you get this pushback on anything new. And I had it Traveler, be honest, when I worked at Condé Nast, because I had come in from a young men's magazine, and one of the big things we had done, and now it'd probably be very cool, we had done some stuff at Details. We had done this, we had in Las Vegas, we put the Richard Petty drivers, but all the drivers, clients into cars.
Yeah.
And let them drive. These were men and women, and they were like, well, you can't put a CMO in there. I'm like, well, I can. Then I went to Traveler, who was much older.
Yeah.
Much, much older crowd. So much pushback. But the publisher at least was behind me. She's like, we hired you because you came from a different point of view.
Right.
So we dropped them. We enhanced it a bit. It was in Kuala Lumpur. We brought them in helicopters and put them in Formula in a racetrack on the Formula, not a Formula One car, but a car on a Formula One racetrack. Because at the event, the space had nothing else. I couldn't find anything in the city that with that hook. I was like, well, they just did this incredible Formula One racetrack. They're incredibly proud of it. And so I found somebody through editorial who was very helpful, who knew this guy, who can get us access to it with the car and the helicopters. And at the end, we had dropped them in. I think one of the salespeople was pissed. He was like, we can't do this. We're not doing this. And he made me do a roundtable discussion after. So basically at the end of the day, everybody was racing, sweating, loving it. And then they had to sit in this roundtable discussion, and they could not focus. They were like children.
Oh my God.
All right, can we get done with this? The state of hotel,
Oh God.
And then one of the guys came to me and said, like, I don't care what you're selling, I'm buying it.
Oh my God. All right, that's it. That's it.
And that said everything. So you have to get people out of their usual thing, just to say, hey, this is experiential. We can do anything. Give
Yes.
time and the money. Push it.
And let's talk about what you did there. You transformed how these very senior level people who've seen it all, how they see the world. You created a core memory for them that they probably still talk about today. And you then check the other box, which is I'll buy anything in front of me. I mean, that's what we do. Yeah. And it's tough that we still have to convince people, because look, does that translate? I mean, it does translate to a spreadsheet, because look, you had increased sales. I think one of the other challenges we have is you probably didn't even have time to thoughtfully measure the success of that, because you're just on to the next.
It wasn't considered, it was an add-on. It was one of those events that we do at every travel conference. We have to do something. And literally, if it wasn't that, it would have been a discussion roundtable about the state of hospitality. It would have been with a dinner and a thing. I was like, I need more. We need to do something else.
So at Liberty, my whole mantra is don't do boring shit. And it's just like, nobody should be, especially in this day and consumers, whether they're B2B or B2C, expect so much right now. Like, don't waste your money doing boring shit. It's interesting. We're having this conversation when South by is kicking off. And one of our team is down there, and I just spoke to her, and she's like, I see a lot of people who I'm not really sure about the why. Like, why are you here? Why? No, the people activating.
People activate.
She's like,
they just think they have to be there because the person before, because I was told I have to be there because this is what was successful for X.
Yeah.
It's not successful for you.
Yeah. And you know what else is
Being out of-
interesting is we're talking with the Fast Company team, and they did the Fast Company grill, and we were part of, when I worked at Fast Company, that was part of what we did, and it was very revolutionary at the time. And now everyone does it. You have there's a this house and a that house and a female quotient, and they all literally create their own mini South bys at South by. So then I'm like, I feel like I'm dropping my catchphrases to you, but like I love saying zig when everyone's zagging. Like if everyone is doing that, then I think now is ripe for Fast Company to blow it up, say now we're going to go in this direction, and this is like a free idea for them. I would almost do like a public square or something where everyone's welcome, because now it's just this whole. I also want to talk to you about line culture. Can we talk about that? I don't wait in lines. Do you?
I will not wait.
I
My
will
daughter
not.
will. My daughter will. She's 21. She will. And as I've discussed this with her before, I was like, particularly like in Soho, I was like, sometimes she didn't even know why she was waiting in line
Yeah.
because she thought she had to.
Yeah.
She
Although,
was so committed, she couldn't get off.
exactly. And then everyone just sits on their phones. It looks like a bunch of, but I will say, I want to try to solve the line. I think if you were a brand, even a competitive brand, it would be hilarious to go entertain people while they're in that line.
Disney does it.
Yeah. Well, I was at Canva Create, and Adobe was trolling them with wrapped cars. I thought that was like, oh my God. All right, real quick. There are also lines at Cannes Lion. However, we're trying to solve that too. Can we talk about Cannes for a moment?
Yeah, let's talk. So just going to Cannes, for those who don't know, Cannes Lion is maybe you can explain it better. It is a big advertising conference in France. It's been going on for a long time.
Yep.
My personal feeling, I'll be going this time. My personal feeling, it wasn't always a place for us. That was me. I was like, well, it's advertising. It's not experiential. So I kind of had to lean. It's like, we belong there.
Oh God,
We belong there.
Well, and here was my big beef last year. It was like me, Shelley Elkins, were kind of saying, okay, this whole thing is experiential, right?
The whole thing is, yeah.
Yet none of your stage time, none of your content is devoted to this tactic. And it, they, even in the, so Cannes Lion is also these very prestigious awards for ad agencies. It's kind of like the Oscars of the ad agency world, but they all are still talking about their 30-second Super Bowl spot.
Right.
And they put experiential in out of home. So it's like us in a billboard. Okay. So they don't get it. Shelley last year wrote this open letter to Cannes Lion. We kind of declared this unofficial day of experiential. I think the issue is so many of us are there, but we're executing. We're
right.
So like we can't get to go. We're Cinderella. We can't go to the ball, right? But I think what we're trying to do there is solve a few problems. So the first thing is, I think the issue of never getting to see anything except for your own activation. We are taking brands, groups of brands on tours. And this is inspired by one of our council members, Kim True, just kind of getting small groups of like 15 to 20 people and bringing them on, like cutting the line, going to get a sneak preview of the Amazon at the pier, Meta Beach, Google, everyone takes over these beach clubs and turns them into these like big kind of previews of what their brands are showcasing. So in a way, it's kind of the upfronts for the advertising world and a celebration of it. So we're doing these tours. And then Thursday, we are kind of declaring the unofficial day of experiential. Canva has invited us back. So Mark, the event that you came to at Rock Center, Business of Experiential, we're doing that at Canva Beach. And it's going to be great. Jimmy Knowles, I think, is one of the most dynamic voices and brand leaders. And certainly everything they do is just magic. So doing it there with some of our brand partners that we love will be just such an honor. So that's going to be kicking off the day. And then later that day, the tours we're doing in partnership with LinkedIn. And then later that day, we're going to do a Business of Experiential happy hour with LinkedIn, and they're at the rooftop of the Carlton. So these are really great locations all along the Croisette. And then we're doing, and this one is very under the radar and kind of invitation only, but we're kind of, you know how Forbes has that CMO summit. So Jimmy Knowles and Jess Stacy were like, we want a gathering like that for experiential leaders. So Collins, which is this super cool brand and strategy agency run by Brian Collins, who is such a character, they do a chateau called Collins House every year, and it's off the Croisette. It is such a breath of fresh air. It is so thoughtfully produced. It's really low key. I don't even think there's a screen in sight, but it's like senior level people and emerging cool young people together actually having conversations about moving the culture. So they have invited us to kind of extend the chateau. So we're going to do this weekend. We're calling it the XP Land Exhale, and just brand leaders and a few key creative studios, just like getting together to talk about strategy and what's next for experiential. So we're doing that. And then I just met with the Vayner team, and they want us to come do some content over there just about kind of experiential as a, not only the most powerful tactic, but also as a revenue generator. I think that's a way that we can get the scrutiny off of us from being a big line item if we are telling the entire brand story and driving revenue. So
this is amazing. Can't wait to go now. So
well,
we're going to
exactly.
I trying to figure this one out. So although we're not Joe Rogan here, we're not going to go 4 hours. Keep it to the hour.
Yeah.
I'll be honest who we are. All amazing stuff. How can people follow you?
Oh my gosh. Well, come find me at xp.land. That's our website. You can, if senior level people, please join the council. Otherwise, I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my social media for workaholics, so that's usually where you'll find me. I don't really participate in a lot of the other social media, but find me on LinkedIn. And I just think our industry is so much bigger and broader and more exciting than people realize. I think we are everything from Cannes Lion and South by to brand activations to Meow Wolf and Disney and Pride Month.
They don't realize how involved we are in different aspects of everything.
Yeah.
But, and it's going to take some time, and I know you can do it because you have the experience of pulling people together, and I look forward to seeing what you can do.
I'm a gatherer. So let's gather the gatherers, Mark Testa, including you. We're going to frolic in France. We'll do another dispatch when we're in the south of France together.
I love it. That's what I want to do.
Bring that,
Erica. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I love chatting with you. And, I can't wait to see what you guys are doing next. And I'm excited to connect and can with the other, experiential folks who see the world the way we do.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to sign up for our email newsletter at markstevenagency.com and subscribe and comment on your favorite podcast app. This is creating the perfect experience where passion meets inspiration.